All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, a Wednesday edition of Unqualified Analysis. Whomstead have thunk it, in the words of Josh Payne? I've been referring to him entirely too much on this show, but you know what? I'm freshly showered, got the beard kind of combed out, so all the kinks and tangles are out of it. I mean, we're feeling good. I mean, I got a bear with sunglasses on my shirt. Shout out Shenandoah National Park. And yeah, we're here talking about the NFL. And I'm recording earlier because, boys, I had an off day. And frankly, didn't feel like putting off my dinner until 9:30 at night on Wednesday because I was recording late. So yeah, we're doing it here on the morning of the 28th. Usually at the beginning of the show, I would have a college football playoff rankings sort of go over session. So we're just gonna pretend that they're out. And yeah, I mean, the rankings are as followed. At 1, we got Georgia, obviously. I mean, who else would be number 1? They're the best team in all the land. Number 2, we have got Michigan after beating Ohio State. They've earned their bump up to number 2, obviously. And then here we go. At number 3, things get interesting. Number 3, we have got Washington moving up in the rankings after just sneaking by Washington State this past week. We got a big matchup in the Pac-12 championship. We'll get to Oregon here in a second. At number 4, still undefeated, Florida State sneaks back in to the top 4. Ohio State, having lost, is bumping down, and that's where we got Ohio State. Actually, no, we got Oregon at number 5. Oregon, the hottest team in all the land, a win and get in scenario here in the Pac-12 championship. Big time sort of goings on there. And then at number 6, Ohio State drops all the way down there, where they will probably end up being when it's all said and done. We said it last week, folks. It's a game you gotta win when you're playing against Michigan. It would have been the same sort of thing if Michigan lost. They probably would have gotten bumped down to number 6 as well, because the resume, the team itself is not looking good enough to where you can justify putting them in. Like I said before, it's not the same as last year, where both these teams were just kind of playing out of their minds. There's no C.J. Stroud for Ohio State. The offense for Michigan, honestly, if Michigan would have lost the game last year, probably wouldn't have been in the playoffs either. So it is understandable either way. But there's no C.J. Stroud in Ohio State, so they're down at number 6, probably where they'll end up staying. And then of course we got Texas at 7, Alabama at 8, and then Yadni. I don't know where it's going after there, but I am pretty sure a full, I don't know, what is time even? I mean, we're like 9-ish hours away from the actual rankings being released. I'm pretty sure I just nailed that. I think I just nailed that top 8. And whenever it comes out, I'm gonna feel like Nostradamus, even though this episode is coming out afterwards. So there's no proof that I just did that off the top of the dome. But trust me, it is 10:30, 10:36 to be exact, in the morning on Tuesday when I'm recording this. I got no actual idea what the rankings are, but I'm pretty sure I just nailed that because the rankings have been super predictable up until this point. And the only real unpredictable week is going to be the final one at when the dust has settled from the championship weekend. Coming up on Sunday, I believe those will be released, because after championship weekend, it's all settled. Regular season's over, championship week is over. All you got to do is select the 4-team playoff. Last year, the 4-team playoff, I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. So, yeah, there you go. There's your rankings. With that, though, let's talk about some NFL stuff, man. I mean, we had quite a week, a lot of stuff going on. We had Turkey Day, winning happening on Turkey Day for your boy if you bet alongside me. Good week of bets, I'll tell you what. I'm feeling less excited about this week because I have fewer games to pick from. But yeah, we had drama. We had lots of blowouts. We had a game for the AFC South, pretty much, between the Jaguars and the Texans. That was a dandy. An all-time sort of doink at the end there. And yeah, we had saddest matchup in all the land between the Patriots and the Giants, a tank fest, if you will. And we had a coach getting fired. I think you can probably guess which one at this point, just based on how the seasons are going. So yeah, without any further ado, let's crack this bad boy open and get into the show, shall we? And you know what? No transition this time. We're just going straight into it. I don't feel like putting in a transition, so I'm just gonna keep it moving. Also, it's in the morning, so I already had my coffee. I don't need any caffeine this time. Probably an aggressive decision not to have literally anything to drink, though. My throat is going to be parched by the time I am done here. So yeah, let's just keep it moving. On Thanksgiving, the first game on Thanksgiving, as we were all stuffing our faces full of food, myself included, by the way. Packers versus Lions. This one did not go exactly as planned for Lions fans. This is kind of why I didn't bet on the spread, because weird stuff happens. Also, Jay Kuda, great follow on Twitter, X, whatever the fuck that goddamn app is called nowadays. He pointed out that the Lions have never won, I believe it was on Thursday night, or just ever won, well, I guess, yeah, they haven't won on Thursday night. When there is I believe it was a waxing gibbous moon. I believe they were 0-16 or 0-15 up until this game. Now they're 0-16. Hashtag Jay knew, man. Jay absolutely knew. The Packers get the win on Thanksgiving, 29-22. This is why we bet the over, and the over hit with flying colors. So we don't got to worry. If you bet on the Lions, though, I bet you're feeling real silly right now. You're feeling real silly, but that was damn near a week ago, so I think that is probably past at this point. Big win for the Packers, and all of a sudden, the Packers are 5-6. They're going into a home stretch where I gotta look at what the schedule has in store, but Chiefs this week, that one's probably going to be a loss, but you got them at home, so most favorable situation you can probably ask for. That's going to be the Sunday night game, too. That should be a dandy. Then you're at the Giants. That should be a win. Buccaneers should be a win. Panthers, duh. At the Vikings, where the Vikings are playing, that might be a win at this point. That's also going to be a Sunday night game. Then you got the Bears. I'm counting off the top of my head, should be 1, 2, 3, 4 wins, which would get them to 9-8. Which is, right there for the 7 seed, especially with how the Vikings have been collapsing here recently. Again, we'll get to that there in just a second, but the Packers got a real chance to make a playoff run here, and lo and behold, I may have spoken a little bit too soon on old buddy Jordan Love there with the Packers. He had a fantastic game in this one. He's had a couple fantastic games in a row. The stat line, not a 300-yard game, but they don't really play a style that is conducive to 300-yard games. They're kind of more of a balanced attack. 22 of 32, 268 yards, 8.4 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And damn it, I just went to the multi-view thing on my screen again. Either way, no turnovers, by the way, for the entire team. No turnovers, no interceptions, no fumbles. Just a basically flawless game for Jordan Love and the Packers. And on the season now, this guy, 19 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Pretty average QBR, but really over the last couple games here, he's had in the loss to Atlanta, he had, that's very beginning of the season. What am I doing? In the last 2 weeks, short, small sample size, but 2 weeks he had over 8 yards per attempt in both weeks. He had 322 yards against the LA Chargers for 2 touchdowns, and then 3 touchdowns against the Detroit Lions. So over the last 2 weeks, that's 5 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Just had his best quarterback rating performance of the season. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that those are 2 defenses that are terrible. They are bad. After how the Detroit Lions started the year, being so impressive versus the Chiefs, and then moving forward from there, obviously the injury to C.J. Gardner-Johnson has kind of put a damper on things, if you will. They've had injuries elsewhere as well. I mean, it went from being a solid defense to start the year to an absolute sieve now. They're right back to where they were last year as far as the Detroit Lions, which is a fun team, a team that's probably going to score a bunch of points, especially when Jared Goff is playing well, which, by the way, did not play well in this game. But, when it comes down to going into the playoffs, and I think we've already talked about this before in this show, the defense is simply not playing well enough to get you deep in the playoffs. They're still definitely good enough to win the division. They're 8-3, and at this point, they're still 2.5 games up on the Vikings, who are now second place in the division after that loss to the Bears on Monday night. Don't want to talk about it right now. We'll get to it at the end of the episode. Lions are still going to get a playoff spot. I mean, probably not going to challenge the Eagles. They're running away with the 1 seed in the NFC, so probably not going to catch them, but ultimately they're still going to be a playoff team, still got a good chance of winning a playoff game, but this is not a team that's built to go deep in the playoffs, especially not when you run into whether it be the 49ers or the Eagles. They're not really built to beat either of those teams because they can't stop anyone on defense. So definitely another step in the right direction, another year where the Detroit Lions have improved under Dan Campbell. The next step, and I think everyone knows it on that team, all over the place. First off, you're going to have to replace Ben Johnson this offseason. That's going to suck. So hopefully you get it right with the offensive coordinator. Then after that, you just got to go hard in the paint on defense. I'm talking free agency, draft, all that stuff. You've got to go hard in the pass rush, especially because Aiden Hutchinson is playing all alone out there pretty much. No one else on the Detroit Lions front seven is getting any pressure whatsoever. And, hey, even with Aiden Hutchinson out there, 0 sacks, 3 tackles for loss in the game, 4 QB hits the entire game for the whole team. They're just not a team that can pass rush right now, which has certainly not helped out the secondary one bit, and a secondary that has sustained a good bit of injury out there as well. So, they just got to improve from top to bottom. You got to get more pieces in the secondary. I don't know. Do you want to bring back C.J. Gardner-Johnson after a major injury like that? He played very, very well last season, but this is 2 seasons in a row where he has sustained major injuries throughout the course of the year. Is he a guy that maybe can't necessarily trust to stay healthy? I don't know. I think if you can get him on an economically feasible deal, I think you sign him for another 2 years and then hopefully keep him moving from there. But hey, maybe CJ Gardner-Johnson wants to test the market again. I don't know. He basically signed like a 1-year prove-it deal and then had a season-ending injury. That is the risk you run when you have one of those deals. So, can you get him on a shorter term deal that's longer than 1 year? Maybe that would be a good guy to keep around, but you got to get some young, fresh blood in there. But Brian Branch, obviously a very good pickup in the draft this year. I think Jack Campbell, overdrafted for sure, probably shouldn't have been a first-round pick as an off-ball linebacker in this day and age because he's not like a Roquan Smith type of guy. He's a very good linebacker, but not quite the guy that you would draft 18 overall. Still probably going to end up being a solid player, but you need pass rushers, you need secondary help, need to continue bolstering really every level of that defense if you want to be a serious unit that seriously contends. And I do think we have to talk about the Jared Goff in the room here because 3 lost fumbles in this game. Didn't throw an interception, so kudos to him. 332 for the game, so also kudos to him. Just not been very good over the last couple weeks. You may argue, some may say that he may be turning into a pumpkin here as of recent. Fact of the matter is, had a good game against the Chargers, which literally everyone does, so nothing to write home about there. Had 3 interceptions versus Chicago, lost 3 fumbles versus the Packers. That is at least 6 turnovers in the last 2 weeks, and I gotta make sure. Did he lose any fumbles versus the Chicago Bears too? He did not. So yeah, 6 turnovers in a 2-week span. Versus, I guess the Green Bay Packers have been playing better on defense. I can't sit here and say that they're a bad unit. They're kind of an average unit, but Chicago has also been playing better. Gave up 31 points, but maybe I'm overvaluing their performance versus the Vikings on Monday night. We're gonna have to talk about that at some point. I'm just pushing that down the road. Still a guy that I would kind of view. I view him better than when he left the Los Angeles Rams. I will say that. I think he has kind of improved as a player. I think Ben Johnson, as his offensive coordinator, has helped out substantially. I do, however, still think kind of just a high-end bridge backup quarterback, or just a bridge quarterback to whoever you got next. I know Hendon Hooker is practicing now, so I mean, third-round pick, a guy that probably would have been drafted in the top 2 rounds if he didn't tear his ACL at the end of the last college football season. I don't know if that's a guy that you necessarily just go ahead and start over Jared Goff at this point. I think Jared Goff is playing too well for that, but I mean, maybe that's a guy that you look to kind of, evaluate, whether that be in practice, in games later in the season, especially if Detroit is in a position where they can rest guys in the last week because they have nothing to play for. I think you get a good look at Hendon Hooker there at that time. Will probably be healthy enough to play by that point in the season. So, I don't know. I think you got to evaluate all options. They're not going to be in position. They're too damn good to be in position to draft a quarterback high in this draft. Maybe one drops to them. We'll see. They're going to be in the 20s though, at the very best, I would say. So, wouldn't hold my breath on that one. I don't know. I just feel like this team. You might have some issues at quarterback. Also, wide receiver Jameson Williams. I mean, seems to make a big play every time he touches the ball. Almost. Ended up with 2 catches for 51 yards in this game, but only 3 targets. Not a high targets per game guy. Amon-Ra St. Brown's a star. I mean, that's a guy that you can probably build around, but probably need another receiver outside of like Sam Laporta. Jameson Williams strikes me as a guy that probably drafted a little bit too high. I don't know if he's ever going to be. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it all progresses. Doesn't feel like he's ever going to be that down in, down out, number 1, number 2 receiver that you're hoping for there. They're just a guy that can stretch the field big time. Not necessarily the Tyreek Hill type, just, really, really one of the fastest receivers in the entire league. So that's definitely useful, but I think you need a reliable day in, day out number 2 on this team as well. Maybe that's something they look at later in the first round in this upcoming draft. But yeah, that's all to say. Lions, still a really good team, still a playoff team, a team that you can really only expect to win a playoff game this year. And I think the Lions fans have got those expectations dialed for this season. I think they're not really overvaluing anything on that front. I think they understand what their team is at this point. They understand they have a little bit of a flawed roster. As long as they win a playoff game, I think those fans will be happy. And that's good for them. They've been bad for a long time. So having Dan Campbell in there, getting the program moving in the direction that it is moving, is nothing but encouraging. Nothing but encouraging. The Green Bay Packers team, they could be a problem. They could be a problem down the stretch. Now they're only 1 game behind the Vikings. Actually, really only a half game behind the Vikings because, Vikings still have their bye week. Bye week is coming up for them. So it could get interesting for that 7th spot in the NFC down the stretch. Could get very, very interesting. Let's move on to the second game of the day. We won't spend a whole lot of time on this. A fire coach in this one, but to be expected. The Cowboys did exactly what we expected the Cowboys to do and what they do every time they play a bad team that is just falling apart at the seams. They beat the hell out of them, 45-10 on Thanksgiving. It was so bad that they went up 38-10, and little context here. I believe before the game, which is a long time for this turkey to be sitting there, but they put a turkey in the Salvation Army cauldron there in the end zone. They went up 38-10. Was like, okay, we could do it now, but I think we can score again. And they did score again, in fact. And ultimately, you saw the video of Dak on the sideline eating turkey. He wanted to be just totally out of the game entirely so he could enjoy his turkey leg on the sideline. Got to respect that, but that's just how much disrespect the Cowboys showed to the Commanders in this game. Another game where Cooper Rush comes in at the end. Dak Prescott, 331, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He might be running away with the MVP right now. He is playing out of his mind. 23-6 on the season, touchdown to interception. Over the last, we'll take this sample size out to, since the end of October. So we'll go back to the LA Rams game. He has 4, 7, 11, 13, and 17 touchdowns to 2 interceptions over the last 5 games. And granted, in those games, did play against the Rams, who aren't very good, the Giants, who aren't very good, the Carolina Panthers, who are sad, and the Washington football team Commies, who are also a sad franchise. I mean, really, those last 3 games they played versus the Giants, Panthers, and Commies, about as sad of a 3-game stretch as you can go through as far as your opponents are concerned. Did absolutely torch the Eagles, though. That can't go without saying. I mean, he went for 374, 3 touchdowns, 8.5 yards per attempt, 0 interceptions in that game. I mean, he's been balling this season. Also has 2 touchdowns rushing to boot. So, I mean, 25 total touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the season. He's second in the league in total QBR. Dak Prescott, and it's not just because he's a Mississippi State product, the all-time greatest player in Mississippi State history, quite frankly. He's just playing that well. He is, I mean, it's a quarterback award for MVP. You could make a very solid argument. I think ultimately Tyreek Hill is going to end up second in MVP voting because it feels like he is just marching to a 2,000-yard season, the first ever receiving 2,000-yard season in NFL history. But Dak Prescott, I think, if he continues to play like this, he's going to win the MVP. I feel very comfortable in saying that. Once again, though, show me in the playoffs. Is it fair? No, but history has taught me not to believe in the Dallas Cowboys until they go into the playoffs and they just throttle someone in the playoffs, get to an NFC championship. They haven't done that I think since the 90s. So get deep in the playoffs, and I'll start really believing in you. All I can say now is the Dallas Cowboys are a really, really good regular season team who unfortunately happens to be in the same division as the best team in the NFC right now, the Philadelphia Eagles. So, yeah, it is what it is. And it looks like the Cowboys are going to have to play a road game in round 1. But, hey, credit where it's due. They are a really good football team. Just show me in the playoffs. Show me in the playoffs. That's all I got to say about that. On the Commies side, I mean, we all know Ron Rivera's gone after this season. This was just the bridge to buy him time until the end of the year. He fires Jack Del Rio, which you kind of got to do after how bad that defense has played. Fires the DB's coach too, Emmanuel Forbes, other Mississippi State product. Shout out, has not been progressing well. This season has been getting torched on a fairly regular basis. So yeah, kind of saw that coming. Does it mean anything in the grand scheme of things for Washington? Really just means that Ron Rivera either had to fire his defensive coordinator or be fired himself. He's gone after the season no matter what. I mean, new owner in there as well. I still don't remember if Ron Rivera is the GM and head coach type of deal there. But yeah, I mean, probably GM, head coach, clean slate after this year with Josh Harris being the new owner over there. And we'll move on from that point, I suppose. I mean, Eric Bieniemy feels like the heir apparent there, but I expect him to do a full search, quite frankly. I don't anticipate them kind of half-assing this. So, yep. I mean, this is just a weird in-between year for the Washington Commies. You're 4-8 now. Definitely not making the playoffs. You can probably put those hopes behind you. And, I don't want to spend too much time on that just yet. The Commanders are sad. Cowboys got at least an okay team coming up this week with the Seattle Seahawks that we've already bet on. We bet on entirely too early because the line has moved to 9.5 now, and I can put the dunce cap on. I feel like an absolute idiot for betting them at plus 7.5, but I don't know. I think it's going to be close either way. So hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, we get a cover on that one. But no, we're not talking about betting right now. We're talking about football. The final NFL game on Thanksgiving was the 49ers at the Seahawks, and the 49ers are back to juggernaut mode, man. That addition of Chase Young has really put some life back into this 49ers pass rush. They're 8-3 now after beating the Seahawks soundly 31-13. Brock Purdy had about an average game, but when Christian McCaffrey goes for 114, 2 touchdowns, and you got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk all playing well, this team is a juggernaut. They absolutely cannot be beat when you got that going on, and it's not like Brock Purdy tanked him either. He threw, 70% completion percentage, just another ho-hum day at the office. Did throw an interception, but Played much better than Geno Smith, who was like 180, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Granted, against a pass rush that's playing out of their mind right now. I mean, 6 sacks in this game, 2 for Nick Bosa as well. 12 QB hits in this game for the San Francisco 49ers. They ate that Seattle Seahawks offensive line alive. There's nothing else you can say about that. Not much you can do in that situation as well. Doesn't necessarily bode well for the Seahawks against the Dallas Cowboys, who have a pretty good pass rush as well. But we'll think about that when we get there. Yeah, I mean, this was kind of what I expected coming in. Especially, I had a pretty good feeling that Kenneth Walker wasn't going to be playing. I can't remember if that news was official or not when the last episode was released, but he did not end up playing. And fortunately for Zach Charbonnet, solid running back. I think, a good second back behind Kenneth Walker. He ain't Kenneth Walker, though, unfortunately. And, unfortunately, did not end up generating any sort of running game in this one. Certainly didn't help the passing game. Hey, Jackson Smith-Njigba was starting to make some big plays. I mean, you can take solace in that. But, yeah, this is just not a game where the Seahawks had any chance of winning. The 49ers are back to juggernaut mode right now. They are still, for my money, the best team overall in the NFC. Not the best record, obviously, because the Eagles keep pulling. I mean, they got a horseshoe lodge straight up their asses right now. I mean, they keep winning games in the craziest fashions imaginable. Clutch stuff going on, too, with the Eagles, which, I mean, very encouraging. Still, a top 2 team, definitely the number 1 seed, running away with the number 1 seed in the NFC right now are the Eagles, but the 49ers are still, for my money, the overall best team. My pick to go to the Super Bowl still. Just make sure, again, as long as Hassan Reddick doesn't take a paring knife to Brock Purdy's UCL again, we should have a good one in the NFC Championship. It feels like those two are on a collision course right now. Feels like, I mean, not just this upcoming week, too, because they are playing on, I believe, is that the Monday night game? I think that is the Monday night game, but that's going to be a dandy. This Eagles stretch of games, I mean, they are a legit team. They've been beating some really, really solid teams here over the course of the last couple weeks. But, yeah, this is just a gauntlet stretch for them with the San Francisco 49ers up on deck. We're going to find out a lot about both of those teams come Monday night whenever they play each other. I am looking forward to that. But yes, the 49ers get the win. They improved to 8-3. They have now won 3 straight after losing 3 straight there. A season of streaks for them. They started by winning their first 5, then they lose 3 in a row, then they come out of the bye gangbusters after that trade deadline hit. They get with Chase Young, and then now they won 3 straight, and now they got the Eagles, Seahawks, Cardinals, Ravens, Commanders, and Rams. You can win any game that you come across on a weekly basis if you are the 49ers. So, have to keep monitoring them. I feel the exact same as I did about them preseason. They're the best team overall in the NFC. Maybe not the best record, but the best team in my mind. Excuse me. The Black Friday game, the Jets are just sad. They're just a sad football team. They started Tim Boyle at quarterback this time, and it went about as well as you would imagine in that it didn't go well at all. Tim Boyle, not a good QB. We already knew that. I think I've seen enough of him I believe he was with the Packers, and then he went to the Lions for a little bit. Every time he's come in the game, it's not been very good. So, I mean, you can be as smart as you want. You can know the offense all you want. You're still not going to be a very good quarterback in that situation if you can't, get the ball out there, distribute the ball to your playmakers. The Jets are just a sad team, and nothing exemplified that more than the final stretch of the first half. And in a 2-play span, first off, they pick off Tua Tagovailoa at around midfield with only a couple seconds left in the half. That's good. That's Jets defense playing some good football there at the end of the half. And then Tim Boyle on the Hail Mary gets the ball picked off by Javon Holland, and with zeros on the clock in the half, Javon Holland returns it 99 yards to the house, and that is the encapsulation of this New York Jets team right there. That right there is the Jets season, and I don't know. I feel like Robert Saleh is getting too much blame here for all of this. I think Robert Saleh has done the best job he can, and that defense under Robert Saleh has consistently played well every single year that he has been there. The fact of the matter is, Robert Saleh isn't the one that decided not to go for a quarterback before the trade. Well, really, not even before the trade deadline. They had all the time in the world because Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles like 4 plays into the season. The fact of the matter is, you had Andy Dalton, who's still not in the game for the Carolina Panthers. You had Jacoby Brissett out there as well. 2 legitimately like high-level backup, if not like low-end starter guys that are upgrades over every guy that you got on the roster healthy right now at quarterback. And Joe Douglas, the GM there, who has now hired he hired 2 straight head coaches who were duds before this, has never drafted a good quarterback. He drafted Sam Darnold. He drafted Zach Wilson. And then at the trade, when he was, forced to go back to Zach Wilson, you already know what you have in Zach Wilson. You've seen enough of him to know that he's not a good quarterback in this league. You made a mistake drafting him, but sunk cost fallacy, they decided to roll with him. You had weeks upon weeks to figure out a trade for either of those backup quarterbacks, be it Jacoby Brissett or Andy Dalton. There were other guys out there you could have gone to, and instead you stay pat with what you got, and now you made this shitty bed. It's got all of the trash in the world. It's got, it's got shrimp tails in it. It's got like crumbs of chips, really just a whole bag of chips that you dumped in there. I mean, there's a dead animal somewhere in the covers that you can't find, but it just makes the bed smell bad. This is the bed you made, though. You gotta sleep in it, unfortunately. And, Robert Saleh didn't make this mess. Robert Saleh didn't decide not to go trade for a quarterback, quite frankly. He just dealt with the pieces that he was given. Joe Douglas is the one that deserves the heat right now. He has been an average at best GM. Got some good players in there, drafted a couple really solid players, brought in some good players in free agency, but when it came time to pick a quarterback, he has gone just over every single time he's gone for a quarterback and really didn't pull the trigger when he needed to. When this is a team that's built to win right now outside of that offensive line, he could have gone out and gotten a quarterback before the trade deadline. That would have been a massive upgrade to what they have now and would have probably still kept them in playoff contention until... I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is coming back this season. We'll see. It's probably a moot point now because the Jets at 4-7 won't be contending for the playoffs. I assure you of that right now. And if you had one of those guys that I just mentioned in here, maybe you've got a chance. Maybe you're 6-5 at this point if you got one of those guys in the building. Maybe you're in a position to get a playoff spot. As it stands now, that's a moot point. Robert Saleh does not deserve the blame here. It is firmly and squarely on the shoulders of Joe Douglas why the Jets are in this position this season, last season, all the seasons before, because he simply cannot get it right at the most important position on the field. And I'll get off my soapbox there. Robert Saleh's getting entirely too much heat, though, and I'll leave it at that. Let's move on to Sunday. Saints at Falcons. This is a sad quarterback matchup. Not quite as sad as anything the Jets have put out there, but Desmond Ridder, my God, he is addicted to throwing interceptions in the red zone, man. I think he threw, again, like another 2, like way down deep in the red zone. I know one like at the goal line pretty much. Another one down in the red zone as well. I mean, he's better than Taylor Heineke, but this is just a stark indictment of the strategy to, one, not draft a quarterback this year in the draft, and 2, not go after Lamar Jackson when he was just sitting there with that price tag on him. And I get it. 2 first-round picks is a steep price to pay, but ultimately, you didn't even try to go after Lamar Jackson this season, which is a perplexing thing to me. Falcons did get the win, though, because Jesse Bates took a 92-yard pick six to the house from Derek Carr, who just gifted it to him. And if you're a Saints fan, I think more than anything, you are just absolutely sick of having Pete Carmichael as your offensive coordinator. Probably should have been fired before this season. We don't have to rehash things. Everyone knows if you listen to this podcast that I am not a believer in Pete Carmichael as an offensive play caller. It's just Sean Payton's plays with none of his creative play calling acumen. Just it is what it is there. Probably got to cut Bates. I think you're probably tired a little bit of Derek Carr too, though, man. He's a man who is absolutely addicted to checkdowns. A guy that, helped Alvin Kamara thrive on those checkdowns. I will say that much. But a guy that is addicted to checkdowns, a guy that will throw bad interceptions at the worst possible times. And ultimately, if it wasn't for that pick six, I mean, hey, this is a 15-17 ball game, absolute rock fight. But that always seems to be what this rivalry ends up being. But you're still right in it. You're a field goal away from getting a win if you're the New Orleans Saints in this game. So I'm not a huge believer in what the Saints are doing right now. Someone's getting fired. It's just a matter of who and how many people are being fired. Do they just straight up go full throttle, get rid of Dennis Allen and the whole coaching staff? Do they just go with a replacement at the offensive coordinator position? I don't know. Derek Carr is your QB for the next couple years, though. That is for sure how this is going to work out. You've committed entirely too much money to him, and you are in just the depths of cap hell year after year. That's Saints football, baby. I think they're like over $80 million over the cap once again. And they'll find a way to get under. They always do by just kicking that can down the road. But that is a situation where you can't afford to cut a guy like Derek Carr. You're going to be having way too much dead cap on top of the over-the-cap stuff that you've got right now. So he's going to be your quarterback. It's just a matter of who is going to be the overall signal caller on offense, who's going to be the head coach there. I think Saints fans are at the very least tired of Pete Carmichael. Also pretty tired of Dennis Allen, quite frankly. And I mean, I still think that you give it another year with Dennis Allen, you just make him hire a better offensive coordinator. I think that's what you kind of got to do in this situation because Pete Carmichael ain't it. That being said, on the other side of the ball, the Saints defense is still a really, really good defense. They only really gave up 17 points in this game. And yes, they really got gashed on the ground. I mean, 228, 5.6 yards per carry, and a touchdown on the ground that the Atlanta Falcons had as a team. That being said, the Atlanta Falcons can do that on just about anybody. I don't know, man. I feel like you probably keep Dennis Allen around. You probably just go away from Pete Carmichael. Falcons, though, number one in a sad NFC South. I mean, what else is new? They're bad. It's a bad division every year, but either the Atlanta Falcons or the New Orleans Saints are going to win this division in all likelihood. I don't see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming in and having a late season run for them. Quite frankly, I think that they used up all their magic early on in the season when they beat a couple teams right out of the gate. Went like I believe like 2-3-1, something like that. They're 4-7 now. They're not a very good football team. They're kind of pretty much exactly what I thought they would be. You know, maybe a few wins better than I maybe thought they would be. But ultimately, a team quarterbacked by Baker Mayfield can only go so far. So yeah, I mean, not a great franchise there. It's going to be either Atlanta or New Orleans, and Atlanta has the head-to-head advantage right now. And do they play each other again this season? I can't remember if they've already played once. Actually, last weekend of the season they play at the Saints next time. That could be for a playoff spot. That could be an absolutely fantastic environment at the end of the season. Possibly between two like 8-8, 7-9 teams by chance there. Two teams that not necessarily gonna run away with this division at all. But I mean, you look at the schedule coming up. I mean, the Falcons should beat the Jets, should beat the Bucks, Panthers, Colts. Feel like they probably lose to the Colts on Christmas Eve. And they're at the Bears, which, who knows, man? Bears have been playing better, and especially with Justin Fields back in the fold with that running ability. Bears are frisky. They might actually lose to the Bears. They are at the Bears, too, so we'll see. And then at the Saints in the final week of the season. The ceiling is the roof for this team. By the ceiling being the roof, I mean they're a pretty average football team. I don't even know why I said that, but pretty good indication that we're done with this game. So yeah, hopefully Arthur Smith survives. I still believe in Arthur Smith as a head coach. Quite frankly, not going and getting a quarterback this offseason is kind of hurting them. I imagine they're not going to make that mistake twice. Kind of rumblings out there about maybe possibly going to trade for a guy like Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is absolutely on the trading block, especially when you got the number one overall pick with a guy like Caleb Williams or Drake May just sitting there, whichever one you happen to go ahead and take. I feel like Justin Fields is going to get wheeled no matter what for trade assets. It's just a matter of down the stretch of this season, how much is he going to improve his trade value? That's really the only question I think Justin Fields has done in Chicago after this year. So do you go out and trade for a guy like Justin Fields if you're Arthur Smith? I think that would absolutely augment the run game to a large degree. I mean, Desmond Ritter's no slouch in the running game, but he ain't no Justin Fields in the running game, I'll tell you that much. So would Reich really fit what he's trying to do? Or could you maybe trade up and go for a guy like a Jaden Daniels in the draft or something like that? The options are open at court. Or maybe, hey, if you try to get into a bidding war with the Vikings and other suitors, maybe you go with a Kirk Cousins after this season. I don't know. I just don't feel like their quarterback for 2024 is on the roster right now in Atlanta. It feels like they should definitely be they need to get a quarterback change in there this offseason. That's to say the least. But yeah, let's keep it moving from there. The Steelers just win a classic Steelers game, 16-10. Lo and behold, you get Matt Canada out of the building, and the very next week they have over 400 yards of offense for the first time in years. They never got a 400-yard game on offense with the entire time that Matt Canada was there. So this is the first time, really the very first week without Matt Canada. They didn't put up a whole lot of points. They didn't have a whole lot of points to show for it, but did put up 400 yards of offense, which is an encouraging sign. And they get a win over Jake Browning and the Bengals, 16-10. Wasn't pretty, but a win is a win. The Steelers are 7-4 now on the season. Kenny Pickett, 278 yards, no touchdowns, but also no interceptions, and he has not thrown an interception in quite some time. I mean, let's see. In the last, what's that? Really, since the beginning of October, the very first day of October, he threw one interception versus the Houston Texans and has not thrown an interception in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. And, you know, the smart people among us would point out he has also only thrown 2 touchdowns in that time period, but not turning the ball over. He's doing just enough, he's doing just enough to not shoot the team in the foot, which is, I mean, when you got a defense like they've got, really all you need. A defense like they've got, a head coach like they got in Mike Tomlin. Would you prefer to have better quarterback play? Absolutely. No question about it. But he's not shooting the team in the foot, which is more than you could say about a guy like Mitch Trubisky on the other side of things. So I don't know. Where do the Steelers go from here? Probably keep on winning. I mean, they're not a very good team, but they're a team that can probably win a good amount in the regular season and keep that winning season streak alive for Mike Tomlin going forward. Bengals season is over. We already knew about that. Hey, shout out Najee Harris for going 15 carries, 99 yards, having a real kind of a renaissance game after Matt Canada goes out of town. Deontay Johnson, That's going to be it's probably already been a tough day in the film room for Deontay Johnson with that lack of effort on the fumble. Basically just walking away from a live ball pretty much, not giving a half a fuck about it. That is going to be a tough day in the film room for Deontay Johnson. But for the sake of my fantasy team, boy, do I hope they keep throwing him the ball. But boy, do I hope he gets a few more receptions throughout the course of this season. Outside of that, though, the Steelers are okay. Bengals stink now. We move on from there. The Grim Reaper showed up in Nashville on this fine Sunday. The Titans got the win 17-10. And, I suppose you could spin it as a win for Frank Reich's bank account. You saw after the game, a couple local reporters witnessed David Tepper shaking his head, leaving the Panthers locker room and yelling the fuck word. You know, what else is new? A guy was obviously pissed, and no surprise, Monday morning, Frank Reich was fired by the Panthers. It lasted even shorter amount of time than I believe what Urban Meyer did down with the Jaguars. Now this is 2 straight seasons where they've fired a head coach. Had a $40 million buyout for the Matt Rule contract, $30 million buyout for the Frank Reich contract, and the Panthers are officially in sad territory right now. You got a number 1 overall pick that you traded the farm for. You traded your best receiver, which still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, to go up and get Bryce Young instead of C.J. Stroud, who is, looking like already a top 10 caliber quarterback and continuing to improve. Instead of getting a guy like that, you got Bryce Young in there who is small and has looked small all season, unfortunately. You got a bad offensive line in front of him, bad receivers, a defense that should be a lot better than it is, but when you got no offense, it's hard for the defense to play well when it's all said and done. Ultimately, this Panthers team is in dire straits. You got to feel bad for Bryce Young because I don't see it getting a whole lot better. You got to, I mean, for my money at this point, I mean, the worst owner in the NFL right now in David Tepper. I mean, really just by default because he's a new owner and hasn't quite figured out that you can't meddle constantly, but a nightmare to work for. Seems like he meets with a coach every single day and just belittles and berates him. A guy that's, I mean, very successful in other avenues of life, but just, again, a micromanaging, control freak. It doesn't seem like a fun guy to work for. I don't think the Panthers are going to attract a guy like Ben Johnson. Hell, Ben Johnson had an opportunity to take the Panthers job last year and said, nah, I'm good. I'm good, man. I don't want to step into that shit show. So I don't know who they're going to attract as a head coach candidate, quite honestly, because I don't know if you look at this situation and say, hey, this is a situation where I can come in and win right away. I don't think. Hey, if I were Bobby Slowick, I would stay with the Houston Texans for another year rather than take the Panthers job if that's the only opportunity that ends up presenting itself. I don't think you're going to be attracting a marquee candidate over there with the Carolina Panthers, and ultimately, again, you just got to feel bad for Bryce Young in this situation. They got no first-round pick this year. They're the worst team in the league by about a mile, and probably going to be just as bad next year, quite frankly, because this offensive line that was supposed to be the strength of your team, I thought very well of this offensive line. I thought they were kind of a fringe top 10 unit at the offensive line this year, has looked like a shell of itself this year. I mean, Ike Ekwonu has had a terrible second year. Everyone across the line pretty much has had a bad year on offense, and tough year for the Panthers. Titans, they're sad as well. They're just not quite as sad as the Panthers in this game. So there you go. There you have it. I mean, how did Will Levis do in this game? He didn't shoot the team in the foot. 185 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles or anything like that. It is Tractorcito season in the words of the great PFT commenter. You know, 2 touchdowns in the day for Derrick Henry, 76 yards on the ground. Anything else there? Jeffrey Simmons is still a monster. He had a sack and 3 tackles for loss in this game, so shouts out to him. He's a really good player. Why the hell? I just keep getting messages in my fantasy league. I don't know, man. The Times is tough. We got a 500 unit over there. We're still in position to maybe go and get a playoff spot, but the Times is tough. My team is not very good. We're a lot like the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Not very good, but we find a way to win games when we need to. No one cares about my fantasy team though. Let's keep it moving from here. Colts beat the Buccaneers 27-20. Gardner Minshew, not great, but you got to be really impressed with what Shane Steichen is doing there. At 6-5, Colts are in the catbird seat for a playoff spot here, and they got the Titans, Bengals with no Joe Burrow, Steelers, they'll keep it close, very winnable game there. Falcons, Raiders, Texans. I mean, they got the whole thing in front of them right now. They could very easily end up with a playoff spot, and who would have thought it? Who would have thought it in year one if you told me that their number 4 overall pick, Anthony Richardson, wouldn't be playing in this season after the first 4 weeks of the year? Who would have thought that they would have been in this position? Really, really solid year from Shane Steichen. I think they've definitely got the right guy piloting the ship now, or captaining the ship now, whatever you do with the ships going forward. I don't think they're really a contender. Obviously not a contender. Also, totally forgot about it because I'm stupid, but Shaq Leonard, former All-Pro linebacker, 3-time All-Pro linebacker, by the way, he got cut last week. That back surgery he got, and this was always kind of the fear that I had. Zaire Franklin kind of emerged in his absence, a guy that, if you got Zaire Franklin in there, you'd love to have Shaq Leonard playing beside him, but never really found a place in the defense this year. Was playing less snaps than he probably would have liked, and ends up being cut. Cleared waivers, too, so I think there's some real concern about that back issue for him. Visiting the Cowboys today as I'm recording this, though, and then later he is going to go to the Eagles to visit as well, and I think he'll probably just kind of pick from there which team he wants to go to. I'd imagine he wants to go to a contender. Can't believe I didn't mention that in the last episode last NFL episode because I am stupid sometimes. I can admit I am stupid sometimes, but yeah, even without Shaq Leonard in there, the Colts are playing really well. Interested to see where Shaq Leonard goes, though. I think especially, I'm surprised he's not visiting a team like the Steelers, quite frankly. The Steelers, I mean, they just brought in Blake Martinez from the Panthers practice squad. They signed him to the active roster. So I feel like a guy like Shaq Leonard is someone that you would want in the building, quite frankly. But right now, it's the Eagles, it's the Cowboys. Maybe it's Shaq Leonard that doesn't want to visit the Steelers, not the other way around. But hey, we'll see. I think by the end of this week, Shaq Leonard will probably have a new team to play for, and I think either one of those teams need him. I think Leighton Vander Esch just went out for the season for the Cowboys as well, so they definitely need linebacker help. Eagles have kind of not been able to really figure it out after losing T.J. Edwards to free agency this year. There's a lot of stuff to figure out for both of those teams in the linebacker position, so I feel like one of those two will probably end up getting him by the end of the week. And we'll just touch on this one briefly. The Patriots are still at the number 2 overall pick this year after playing, I mean, one of the saddest games in all of the NFL this year, quite frankly, at the Giants. Tommy DeVito, grazie prego, got a touchdown in this one, no interceptions. An actual cartoon character. Don't want to be throwing stones at glass houses, so I'll while I'm living in my glass house, so I'll leave it there. Not a good football team, the Giants, but the Patriots are somehow even worse. Mac Jones got legitimately benched in this one. It's not like in a blowout where getting benched at the end of the game. I feel like Bailey Zappi might be the quarterback going forward. Mac Jones is just simply not good, and he wasn't done any favors in this situation, but he's not very good. Doesn't seem like a particularly strong leader. Quite frankly, from afar, he seems like a bit of a dick. I mean, not even like the type of dick that you would like to hang around either. Like the type of dick that, kicks people in the dick, punches them in the dick, all that sort of things, is whiny on the sidelines, all that sort of stuff. Everything you saw from Mac Jones last year, pretty much. And they for the good of all of football, Chad Ryland missed a last-second field goal to send it to overtime, which, by the way, if they went to overtime, the final score was 10-7, the Giants got the win, this would have been a tie. This would absolutely have been a tie. Neither team is scoring in overtime, I'm here to tell you. So, I mean, hey, Patriots fans who have just gone into full tank mode, the quick transition to loserdom is hilarious to watch, but they're all rooting for losses now. They want like a Marvin Harrison Jr. in there, a Drake May, someone different than what they have in there right now. Probably going to be looking for a new head coach as well. This is a situation that, hey, if you're Ben Johnson, this is a situation you want to step into. Robert Kraft, proven very good owner, been an owner for a long time. If you get a good GM in there as well, get all the Belichick out of the building, probably not going to be a great first year, but if you can rebuild that offense, you can get some continue to keep the defensive personnel at a high level, get a good defensive coordinator in there. Patriots aren't a bad job to go into, but it's starting to feel more and more like Bill Belichick won't be back there. Again, if it were me, you just take away the offensive personnel duties from him. You don't even really have to take away the GM title. You just low-key hire someone to take care of the offensive personnel and take Bill Belichick's hands off of that, have him focus full-time on the defense. But yeah, I don't know where you go from here right now other than continue to lose if you're the Patriots. Giants, I mean, might have wanted to lose this game. I mean, they're kind of playing themselves out of a draft position right now. Not really though. They're 4-8 and they are a bad football team. They will continue to lose games. So I don't want to spend any more time than I absolutely have to on this game, other than to say right quick. Seems like there's some real tension between Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale. We'll leave it there. Best game of the early slate for my money. The Jaguars went to the Texans, and they played an absolute thriller in this game. It looked like the Jaguars might kind of run away with this. They scored a touchdown, a 2-point conversion in the third quarter, I believe it was. Went up, 21-14. Yeah, 21 to 14 in the third quarter, or 21 to 7 in the third quarter at one point, I believe. And at the end, it went right down to the wire here, folks. It got really, really close. Trevor Lawrence, kind of an up and down sort of game. Ended up with 360, only one touchdown. Through the air, did get one on the ground, so credit where it's due. One interception as well. Calvin Ridley starting to come along there as well. And 89 yards, one touchdown. Christian Kirk is who he is, 89 yards. No touchdowns, but really, really solid receiver. And really, they just survived. They just survived a C.J. Stroud onslaught because C.J. Stroud was money in this game. 304. 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and would have probably been about 60 yards more, quite frankly, if not for an illegal shift penalty on a bomb that he threw to Tank Dell. Tank Dell is playing out of his mind, one of the best rookie receivers in the entire league, maybe the best rookie receiver in the entire league this year. He's playing very, very well. C.J. Stroud, though, man, he is, making a real case for MVP right now. Not quite. If it were between him and Dak Prescott, give me Dak Prescott every single time. But 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the year, top 10 in QBR, 3,200 yards, which I believe is one of the top, if not the top in the entire league in yards overall. Cruising to a 4,000-yard season passing the ball. He's just playing really, really good football. And ultimately, though, came down to the very last second. Matt Amendola had a 59-yard attempt to possibly tie the game, send it to overtime, and you know what? If it were about a foot farther, he would have made it. Unfortunately, it wasn't. He doinks it off the very, very front of the crossbar, and that's the end of the game. That is as time expires. Absolute thriller of a football game. I think both of these teams are really solid, but ultimately, like I said, coming into this was pretty much a game for the AFC South. The Jaguars get a win. Now there are 2 games up on the Houston Texans, 2 games up on the Colts as well. Seems like they have a commanding lead in the AFC South. And down the stretch, really, they play the Ravens in 2 weeks down the road. Actually, they think they're going into. No. I'm just tripping right now. Don't mind me. They have the Ravens in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I guess you could say. I don't know. Time is a flat circle, whatever. Outside of that, though, they play the Bengals with a backup quarterback, Browns with a backup quarterback, obviously Ravens, and they're at the Buccaneers, Panthers, Titans. All those are very winnable games. I think you probably don't pull it out versus the Ravens, but other than that, a bunch of very winnable games there for the Jaguars. I think they probably end up running away with this division. Houston Texans still very much in the hunt for a playoff spot, them and the Colts. I would give the nod to the Houston Texans because obviously quarterback advantage, I think defense advantage too. This is just a really good football team. Now, let's go take a quick break. Hit the pause button. Be right back, folks. Okay, we're back. Just had to real quick, coffee. Need I say more? Coffee. Alrighty. We got to get it moving here, man. We've been recording for what's it been now? Already an hour, man. We gotta hit the turbo speed here real quick. We can just kind of breeze past this one. Broncos 6-5 now. They beat the hapless Browns 29-12, who had to go back to PJ Walker, by the way, because Dorian Thompson-Robinson suffered a concussion. Didn't really play well before he suffered the concussion either. That's just the Browns, unfortunately. They are 7-4, but it feels like that might change quickly. Also, banged up after the game, Myles Garrett. Seems like might be running away with the Defensive Player of the Year as well. So, yeah, tough time for the Browns. Broncos, though, Sean Payton, just a fantastic coach. What else we already knew that. So, yeah, well, what else is new? Broncos 6-5 now. They have got down the stretch. Goodness gracious, my nose is all itchy. Texans, Chargers, Lions, Patriots, Chargers again. So a couple really, really tough games in there, but they could put the nail in Brandon Staley's coffin. I will say that much. But with 2 different matchups with the Chargers, could very easily be the ones that end up getting him fired. So keep an eye on that down the stretch of the year. Keep it moving from there. Cardinals, still bad, even with Kyler Murray in there, which, by the way, Kyler Murray, not playing bad at all. 27-45, kind of a low yards per attempt number. But, 256, one touchdown, no interceptions, no fumbles or anything like that. Got a touchdown on the ground, too. He's playing well, all things considered. He's got nothing around him, absolutely nothing around him. He's got Hollywood Brown and a rookie tight end, Trey McBride. That's it. He had a wide receiver, Greg Dortch, who is 5'7" and did the too small celebration, down about 1 million points in the fourth quarter. So that's where we're at as a franchise there for the Arizona Cardinals. Matt Stafford, 4 touchdowns, though. And also Kyren Williams, back from the IR. Welcome back. 143 yards, 2 touchdowns receiving in this game, also 61 yards. So over 200 yards of offense on the day. Welcome back to the fold, Kyren Williams. I believe the Los Angeles Rams missed you mightily. Also, by the way, not a very good Rams team. And still 5-6. This is why I didn't think they'd be the number 1 overall pick, folks. Hey, Sean McVay, very good head coach. What else is new? Chiefs get the win over the Raiders, 31-17. I believe they went up 14-0 at one point, and then it all just kind of escalated very quickly from there. Rashee Rice, I believe this is the first 100-yard game for a wide receiver this year for the Kansas City Chiefs. He broke off a long one, ended up with 8 receptions, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. They're going to need him to continue doing that if they're going to, go deep in the playoffs, I think. I think he continues to come along, though. I think that's probably the guy that ends up emerging as a target, a viable option outside of Travis Kelce on this team. But the Chiefs continue to win. They're 8-3. The AFC is kind of wide open at that 1 seed. I think they end up coming out on top with that one in the end. Raiders get another loss, though. Josh Jacobs, still fantastic. Still a very good player. 20 carries, 110 yards, and a touchdown. So, they're just not a very good team. I hope Antonio Pierce gets a really quality look as the next head coach. And I think with the 2 buyouts that they just paid to Josh McDaniels and John Gruden, I think Antonio Pierce for a much lower number, probably a good guy to throw in there as your next head coach, and a guy that I think the team really rallies around. So we'll see. I like him as the next head coach for the Raiders, though. I think that's a good direction to go. Wild one in the 4 o'clock slate here, in the final game of the 4 o'clock slate between the Bills and the Eagles. Man, this one got crazy, especially in the fourth quarter. I believe the Bills were up 31 to, I don't remember. All I know is in the fourth quarter, they were up 24-7 entering the fourth quarter. And Eagles outscore them 17-7. Ultimately, in the driving rain, they get close enough. 60 yards away, driving rain, like 40-degree weather. Just a bad, terrible northeast day. One of the worst sort of weather environments you can think of is like low 40s and raining. We've been over this before with that Oregon State and Washington game. Just a bad condition to play in. But hey, in all that, in the face of all that, with the wind as well, Jake Elliott comes out there and nails a 60-yarder to send this thing into overtime. Then in overtime, Bills had a touchdown that they could have gotten. It was within their grasp. Also, with like 20 seconds left in regulation, 1 timeout, they decided to kneel the ball. Questionable decision, but they sent it to overtime. Bills get all the way down on the goal line, miss a touchdown to, I believe it was Dalton Kincaid that they missed the touchdown to. Sorry, I got an itch on the bottom of my leg. My bad, folks. I'm just being weird, raising my knee up to the camera there. My beautiful bare knee. But yeah, they get all the way down there, have to settle for a field goal. Eagles do not make the same mistake. Jalen Hurts closes this thing out with a rushing touchdown, his second of the day. And at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts had a monster performance. A monster performance in this game. 3 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing as well. I think odds on, probably the leader in the clubhouse to win MVP. Only 18 touchdowns passing, but 11 touchdowns on the ground. I believe that ultimately leads the league in the total touchdowns category. He's got 29 on the season now, with 10 interceptions to boot. Really, what more is there to say about Jalen Hurts? He's a really good quarterback. people on Twitter, what else is new? People on Twitter are absolute idiots, but I'll leave that there where it is. Now you got some serious questions about Sean McDermott's future with the Buffalo Bills right now. You got people calling for him to be fired. Feels like it's trending more and more in that direction, especially with how perplexingly bad the defenses have been. And with Josh Allen, I mean, he's not the reason they lost this game. I mean, 339, two touchdowns on the ground, too, as well. 81 yards on the ground as well. Well over 400 yards of offense in the game for Josh Allen, and still comes up just short in the game. Just brutal loss for the Buffalo Bills, and it simply does not get easier from here, man. They have a murderer's row of opponents coming up. Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Patriots, and Dolphins. Really, outside of those Chargers and Patriots games, all games that I expect them to lose, quite frankly, coming up. And feels like at that point they would be on the outside looking in for a playoff spot as well. And if this team misses the playoffs with the expectations coming in, I don't know if it's fair or not, but I think Sean McDermott should be worried about his job there as the head coach. Not that Brandon Beane doesn't deserve a little bit of criticism as well for not being able to come up with a consistent second option receiving, poor depth on the defensive side of the ball. Ultimately, we're in a weird spot for the Bills right now, though, man. They got a murderer's row of a schedule and a really good AFC. Feels like they're going to be on the outside looking in. Eagles, though, they just keep winning. They're 10-1 now. They're 2 games up for the 1 seed in the NFC, and they just keep trucking along, man. They've got a big time test, a big time game, and it's an absolute treat for all of us at home coming up with the 49ers this upcoming week. We keep moving from there, though, because we don't have a whole lot of time here, folks. We got stuff going on today. Ravens beat the Chargers 20-10. I'm convinced the only reason that Brandon Staley still has a job is because Dean Spanos doesn't feel like paying to not have a coach through the end of the season. Whether it be now, whether it be at the end of the year, they're not going to have Brandon Staley going forward. That's quite clear to see. That is simply not going to be the guy. But Ravens didn't look impressive throughout the game. Had some times where they could have pulled away and they didn't. But also Justin Tucker not making field goals that he usually does. It's going to be a little bit concerning, but not so concerning that you can look over the fact that the Ravens are now 9-3. I believe they have the number 1 seed in the AFC just by virtue of not having had a bye just yet. But yeah, they're 9-3 now. That Todd Monken offense, I mean, a bit of a hiccup this week, but starting to play better and better as the weeks go on. Running game is still as explosive as ever. Zay Flowers, by the way, put a dagger in this game, too, with a 37-yard rushing touchdown at the end. So, yeah, I mean, that's just stuff that you weren't seeing under the Greg Roman offense, too. So, I mean, Ravens, a legitimate, I mean, especially with that defense they got with Mike McDonald and all the boys on that side of the ball. A fantastic pass rush to boot as well. I mean, this is a legitimate Super Bowl contender, man. I mean, in the AFC, it's the Chiefs, it's the Ravens, and it's basically everyone else outside of that. I don't think anyone else in the AFC is on their level, especially at this point in the season, but overall, it just feels like those two teams might be on a collision course right now for a trip to the Super Bowl. And honestly, I think the Ravens from top to bottom might be a better team, quite frankly. I think they got better weapons, a comparable defense, if not even a slightly better defense, a better runner at quarterback, too. Maybe, probably not a better quarterback. Well, definitely not a better quarterback overall with Pat Mahomes on the other side. But I think the Ravens have as good a shot as anyone to make the Super Bowl this year. And they're gearing up to do just that. I'm looking forward to seeing what the home stretch has in store for them. Chargers, yeah, dead man walking there, Brandon Staley. Skinny neck, large head. Not to say anything about his coaching acumen, too, which, defenses have never been good since he's been there. We've been over this many, many times before, so I'll let it rest there. I guess we'll hit on this last game quickly. The Vikings. I don't know if I've ever been more frustrated watching a football game than I was watching the Vikings on Monday night, man. It was tough. It was tough. Josh Dobbs has fully turned into a pumpkin. He was terrible. Not just bad, terrible on Monday night. couldn't get the ball down the field, was inaccurate when he did throw the ball down the field, ends up throwing 4 interceptions in the game. I kind of miss Jordan. Also, Jordan Addison, got to get your feet down. That was the most frustrated I was the entire night, was when Jordan Addison was wide open on the sidelines. First off, should have put it on the money in the first place if you are Josh Dobbs. Lead him into the field, not necessarily on the sidelines for that one. Though he should have put his feet down. Jordan Addison was pretty nonchalant there on the sidelines. Didn't get the feet down. Ultimately, we would have been in position to go down there and get a score, and then simply didn't happen. Ultimately, you get down to the end, and I understand Kevin O'Connell doesn't have a whole lot of faith in Josh Dobbs after he threw 4 interceptions and tried to throw like at least 2 more in the game. Just a terrible, terrible night for Josh Dobbs. So I understand why he doesn't trust Josh Dobbs to try and get that first down at the end, but the fact of the matter is, called run, then screenplay on 3rd and 10, and we gave the ball back to the Bears with 2:30 remaining in the game. 2-minute warning. Didn't have any timeouts, but had the 2-minute warning to go down there and score a field goal. Wish they did. Cairo Santos hits the game-winning field goal, and this game is over. Vikings now have lost 2 straight after that hot stretch they went on, and now we're talking possible quarterback change going into the bye. Yeah, to all the people saying that maybe you roll with Josh Dobbs going forward, I hope you realize now just how absolutely, abjectly brain dead you are as a football fan. I'll leave it at that. This is just a bad night. Bears are 4-8. Hopefully they play their way out of a good draft pick. They're still going to have that Panthers draft pick though, so no matter what, they're probably going to have the number 1 overall pick. Yeah, I'm dead inside. I'm absolutely dead inside. I hated watching that offense last night. I absolutely hated it. I don't know where you go from here. We got a whole bye week to figure it out. You got Justin Jefferson almost certainly coming back after the bye week. Who's going to be his quarterback, though? Is it going to be Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall, Josh Dobbs? I think all options are going to be evaluated during the bye week. I'm kind of inclined to think that they go back to Jaron Hall after the bye, though. Josh Dobbs knows what it is. He's been with 7 teams in 7 years for a reason now. He knows what it is. He's a career backup, and he knows it. So I feel like he would take it in stride if we went back to Jaron Hall or Nick Mullins, quite frankly, after the bye week. I just feel like you gotta try something different after what we just saw out there. And it's not like Josh Dobbs has been lighting up throwing the ball either. He's just been good on the ground with his legs, and he was so terrible in this last game that I think you got to at least try. You got to at least try going back to Jaron Hall after the bye week, I would say. But hey, still a game that the Vikings should have won. If they had any semblance of a pulse on offense, they would have won this one. But Raiders, Bengals, Lions, Packers, Lions again. It's all still in front of us. Could still finish off 10-7, 9-8. Be challenging for a playoff spot when it's all said and done. Wish I had last night back, though. With that, though, that is it. That is it for week 13? 12? Yeah, week 12. That's it for week 12 on that one. Let's get a look at the odds going into next week. This is a good time to just kind of, recap what we're already on for this upcoming week of games. Got 6 for you on the Tuesday episode. Let's just go over those real quickly. Louisville plus 3.5. That's now plus 2.5 in most places, so you can't get that. Oregon, Washington over 67.5. You can get that at 66.5 in pretty much every place now because I'm stupid. Same thing with the Seahawks. If you waited, I got them at plus 7.5 versus the Cowboys on Thursday night. It's now up to plus 9.5 in a lot of places. So shop around, do your due diligence. Hell, you might even want to wait a little bit longer because it feels like that line might even get bigger than that. I was just dumb and moving early on that one. It is what it is, but plus 7.5 for the purposes of my picks. Colts minus 1.5, which is now to minus 2 in most places. SMU plus 4.5, which again, that line moved another point in the direction of Tulane, so you can get that at plus 5.5 now. And Lions, Saints over 44.5, which I think did move Now that it's 45.5, up 46 in a good amount of places too. So I'd hop on that one while you can. That's the ones we were already on coming in. So let's go down the slate and see if we can add a couple more here. I got two more for you. Just a little spoiler. Both of them are in the NFL sphere. It's tough seeing the college football season die as it has. You don't realize how much you're going to miss it until you're right there, and that's where we're at right now. But Seahawks, Cowboys. Obviously, I'm leaning. I picked the Seahawks already. I liked 7.5. Love 9.5. So that's where I'm going with this one. I think the Seahawks are going to keep it close. They will not win. I can almost guarantee they will not win, but I do think they keep it close against the Cowboys. Over under is 46.5. Primetime unders have been money this year, so I would probably lean the under on that one at 46.5 in most places. Chargers Patriots has now moved to -6 for the Chargers in most areas, and we all know my policy. I'll die before I bet money on the Chargers, so I don't know how they're going to do it. I assume the Patriots will keep it close, though. Over-under is 39.5, and in any game where the Patriots are playing, I'm inclined to take the under. You can get it at 40.5 in a lot of places, though, by the way. Lions -4 versus the Saints. I still would lean the Lions in this situation. I think they're due for a bounce-back game here, but Jared Goff, the way he's been playing, going up against a really solid Saints defense, I don't know. Probably stay away from this one. Obviously, we're already on the over, though, at 44.5. It's now moved to 45.5 in a lot of places, 46 in some others. So move on it while you can if you feel good about that one. I certainly do. Steelers are -5.5. That's come down from 6, I believe, early on in the week. And I don't know. I don't trust the Steelers to cover a spread that is that wide, quite frankly. I think Kyler Murray can give them some trouble this week as well, so I don't know. I'm probably staying away from that in the public airwaves. Probably a game I end up coming around to betting on Sunday, though, just in my own personal thing. By the way, outside of betting on Jordan Addison over 47.5 yards on Monday night, everything your boy has touched has turned to gold this weekend as far as NFL betting. I don't think I lost a single NFL bet. We are riding high, folks. Just had a nice little quick withdrawal from the old sportsbook account, which haven't had that in a good couple weeks. Feels good. Feels good to be in the positive enough to where you can start withdrawing a little bit of money from there. But yeah, we got to keep this momentum going. I don't want to jinx it going forward. I would still lean the Steelers, and I would probably pick the Steelers to cover 5.5, just not for the purposes of this show. Not an official bet there. The over-under is 41 in most places. If you're looking to bet the over, it's 40.5, looks like at FanDuel at the moment. I'd still lean the under, though. I feel like with the Steelers team, they always play under football. That's just what they do. Just had a total of 26 last week after the line was set. It was like 33.5 going in. So it feels like this is going to be another under game. That would be my lean there. Not going to pick that, though, obviously. Too low of a number. Falcons -2.5 versus the Jets. You can get a +3 at PointsBet and Rivers if you're trying to bet on the Jets. I am not. This is another game that I'm not going to add it to the slate. Don't feel good enough about it, but I will probably end up betting with my own hard-earned money on Sunday on the Falcons. I think they end up winning this game, and they end up winning it fairly comfortably. Over-under is 34. That seems pretty apt. I don't have a good lean either way. I'm certainly not betting the over with the Jets, and under at 34 just seems too stressful for me, so I'll probably stay away from that. You can still get a 1.5 at MGM, DraftKings, PointsBet, and Rivers on the Colts. So there you go, -1.5. Really like that bet. Yeah, it's basically, you can get a +2 at FanDuel and Caesars, it looks like, if you're trying to bet on the Titans, which can't blame you. This feels like a real spot for a Mike Vrabel special, but I feel good about the Colts right now. Over under 42.5 in most places, but you can get a 43 at Caesars if you're looking to bet the under. My lean would probably be on the under in this one. Like I said, this feels like a spot for a Mike Vrabel special right now. Dolphins Commies -9.5. We are moving on that in the Dolphins direction. The Commanders, I don't think you get quite the bump of firing a defensive coordinator like you would at firing a head coach. I feel like this is a spot where the Commanders are going to wilt, and the Dolphins, this is what they do versus bad teams. This is their bread and butter. Teams that are just on the outs, a lot like the Cowboys, they have a habit of beating the holy hell out of them, and this is a Commanders defense that has not played well basically all season. So give me the Dolphins at -9.5. I think they win this one very comfortably. That's an official bet for us. Over under, you can get kind of a range between 49.5 and 50.5. I would still lean the over. I think the Commanders are good enough to score some points, especially with Jalen Phillips being out. I think like the Dolphins pass rush could be affected fairly substantially on that front. So I'd lean the over at 49.5. You can get a 50.5 at BetMGM and DraftKings right now. Yeah, just BetMGM and DraftKings, you can get a 50.5 on right now if you're looking to bet the under. Go right ahead. Can't stop you there. It is a free country. Broncos at the Texans. Texans favored by -3.5. The Broncos are just, one of the better coach teams in all the league right now with Sean Payton at the helm. I'm staying the hell away from this game because I like the Texans, but the Broncos, they just got some shit to them right now, man. I would lean the Texans for the sake of the segment here, but Broncos are firing on all cylinders, absolutely firing on all cylinders. So I'm staying the hell away from this game. Over under 47 or 47.5, depending on where you go. I would lean the under, actually, quite frankly. It feels like Broncos have been playing some under football here recently. Defense playing much better. Offense just doing enough to win games. And with a rookie quarterback on the other side with the Texans, I just feel like this is a spot where Pat Surtain locks someone down, and this just ends up being a low-scoring affair. I feel fairly good about the under in this one at 47.5. You can get that at FanDuel, DraftKings, and FanDuel and DraftKings right now. They're the ones where you can get a 47.5 at the moment. Panthers at Bucks. If I didn't feel so terrible about the Bucks, I would probably take them at -5.5 here, but I don't know about that, man. I usually like to stay away from teams that just fired their head coach, betting wise. So yeah, I'm staying the hell away from this one. I would still lean the Buccaneers though, because the Panthers are just simply that bad. Over under is 37 or 37.5. I would lean the under on this one. I think there's not going to be a whole lot of points scored because neither of these offenses are very good, quite frankly. And then Sunday night matchup, actually not Sunday night, Sunday 4:25, a prime time game here, probably going to be, who is it? Greg Olsen and Burkhardt over there, Kevin Burkhardt there. I think it's Kevin Burkhardt. I can't quite remember. Either way, this is probably going to be the Fox game of the week. So right now you can get a -3 or a +3 in some places. You can get that at FanDuel right now, and DraftKings. If you're looking to bet the +3 on the Eagles, it's -2.5 everywhere else. I would lean the Eagles in this one, quite frankly. I don't know. I get the 49ers are playing some really, really good football right now, but the Eagles at home are they're a juggernaut, an absolute juggernaut. They almost got caught this past week versus the Bills. I feel like they're going to be dialed in for this one, though. I like the Eagles to cover this one. Probably going to stay away from this. And hell, I might even flip-flop before the game to the 49ers because I love the 49ers so much. But yeah, over-under 45.5 in some play at still 45.5 at Caesars if you're looking to bet the over. That would be my lean, but these are two really solid defenses as well, at the very least solid on the 49ers side, so it's not out of the question that the under happens. 46.5 pretty much everywhere else on the board. Yeah, everywhere except for Caesars has moved to 46.5, so yeah, I would lean the over with 45.5 on this game. Browns-Rams, sad matchup to say the least. I would lean the Rams though, -3.5. The hook scares me. I can't lie on that. Sorry, my glasses, the nose pieces are getting all messed up. But yeah, I would lean the 3.5. This is another one I might just end up betting outright with my own money, but for the sake of this show, I just don't feel good enough about it to put it in the picks segment as an official pick, so I'm staying away from that one. Especially with probably PJ Walker starting, I feel good about the Rams in this game, but This is going to be a low-scoring affair. Over-under is 39.5. You get 39 in some places as well. If you're looking to bet the over, feels under. Feels like an under game to me. So, and you get that under at FanDuel, MGM, PointsBet, Caesars. Yeah, those are the ones where you can get the 39.5 if you're looking to bet the under. And then Sunday night, we have got our second bet of the day. Chiefs at the Packers. Cool. I'm just getting texts on my phone. Chiefs at the Packers. Chiefs minus 6.5. And we are laying the points with the Packers, actually. Hit a little bit of curveball there for you. Jordan Love playing really well. This team is kind of rounding into shape. Do I expect them to win? Not really, but I got a feeling that they're going to keep this within a touchdown. I feel like this is going to be a low-scoring, kind of fun game for Sunday night to watch. So I'm taking the Packers, laying the points, plus 6.5 there for them. I really like that one. That's an official bet, too. That is our final official bet of the day. Over under 42 in most places. I would probably lean the under. So you're looking at the under 42.5 right now at FanDuel. They are the last bastion of the 42.5. So move on that one quickly. It might even be there by the time that this thing gets kicked off, and by the time this episode comes out, quite frankly. And then on Monday night, we've got a sad matchup, folks. The Bengals, without their quarterback, are facing off against the Jaguars. And you can get anywhere from a 7.5 at FanDuel right now to 8.5 in most other places. You can get an 8 at Rivers at the moment. I would still lean the Jaguars in this situation. I don't think the Bengals are going to keep it particularly close. I think the Jaguars are playing well enough to where they're a well-oiled machine. They should win this one with authority. That being said, it is the Jaguars, so I am not taking that possible outcome for granted. They have done some real dumb shit here over the course of the season, so I can't trust them to cover this spread. They would be my lean, though, if I had to lean one way. You can get a fairly good variety of numbers here on the over-under as well, anywhere from 37.5 being the lowest number to you can actually get a 38.5 at FanDuel right now if you're looking to bet the under. I'm not taking the over in this game, quite frankly. If anyone's going to get it, it's going to be the Jaguars getting the over, but that would be a blowout scenario. So, yeah, 38.5, I would take that under just tentatively. I'm not going to actually bet that, but for the sake of the segment, that's where we're at. And with that said, I think that's all. I think that's all for me, folks. Thank you for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis, the NFL edition. Oh, that's disgusting. Just dislodged a big old pile of mucus from the back of my nose, but we don't gotta talk about that right now. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. If we do this thing twice a week during the football seasons. Football season is rapidly coming to a close, though. That's, just don't want to think about that. Don't want to think about that at the moment. But hey, if you enjoyed this, subscribe wherever you're listening to it, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Just go ahead and subscribe. Share it as well. Help me grow this thing a little bit. That would be much appreciated. If you want to follow me on the X, the Twitter apps over there. Link will be down in the description. Caleb Verzak for that Twitter handle. Sorry, nose is all itchy right now. If you want to contact the show, either shoot me a DM on Twitter or go over to the email unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com and, hit me up the old-fashioned way. Send me a letter if you can find my address. I hope you can't, because that is creepy. But yeah, outside of that, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got zero clue what I am talking about. However, one thing I learned in this glorious week of weeks is that in 2008, Jeremy Piven was diagnosed with mercury poisoning from eating sushi twice a day, every day, for 20 years. Higher mercury content in fish. So, yeah, that's an incredible amount of sushi for Jeremy Piven. There you go. I will see y'all on Tuesday. Peace out, Girl Scouts.